Hi everybody, so in this video we're going to determine the x-intercepts and the y-intercepts. Okay, so the x-intercept is where the parabola crosses the x-axis. It is where the parabola crosses the x-axis. So here in this graph, the parabola is actually crossing the x-axis here and here. There are two x-intercepts in this situation. So we have a negative x-intercept, which is actually our smaller one. The one on the left-hand side is usually our smaller x-intercept. That smaller x-intercept is -5, 0. And then we have one on the right-hand side, and the one on the right-hand side is normally known as the larger x-intercept, and that x-intercept is known as 1, 0. X-intercepts are points, so you have to write them with parentheses, okay? Another word for x-intercepts are zeros, roots, and solutions. Each of those answers will be presented in a different way than an actual point. But in the case of x-intercepts, it is a point, and usually there is a smaller and a larger one if there are two x-intercepts. Now let's look at the y-intercept. The y-intercept is where the graph crosses the y-axis. Where the graph crosses the y-axis. So our graph is crossing the y-axis at -5. Right here at -5. So the y-intercept is a point. And so you have to write it with parentheses. All right. So here we have our x-intercepts, and we also have our y-intercept of -5. And that's how you find the x and the y-intercept. So let's take a look at this graph. We're going to determine the x-intercepts and the y-intercept on this one as well. So the x-intercept, there are two of them. It crosses the x-axis here and here. The x-intercepts are where the graph crosses the x-axis. So our graph crosses the x-axis at 1, 0. That's our smaller x-intercept. And our larger one, which is to the right, is at 3, 0. That's our larger x-intercept. Now, let's look at where it crosses the y-axis. That is what we call our y-intercept. Our y-intercept is 0, -3. Again, we write it as a point. And there goes our y-intercept. Try your hand at the next one. This is another parabola. I want you to identify what are your x-intercepts and what are your y-intercepts. Pause the video here to determine that on your own. So how did you do? Did you notice that this graph did not cross the x-axis? Therefore, there are no x-intercept because it does not cross the x-axis. However, there is a y-intercept, and that y-intercept is 0, 5. Good job. All right, let's go on down and let's have you try your hand at this particular example. What is the x-intercept and what is the y-intercept? Pause the video so that you can try it on your own. Oh, wow. How did you do? So check this out. Do you see that the parabola touches the x-axis in one location? That means it has one x-intercept. So that x-intercept is 3, 0. It is possible to have two x-intercepts, one x-intercept, or none at all. And so you've seen an example of all three versions. Now, what is the y-intercept for this problem? So where the parabola crosses the y-axis is at 0, -18. Great job on finding the x and y intercepts. Thank you for your time.